Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021.
I'm not as excited as her, but yeah, welcome to 2021. This is the first podcast of the new year for us.
Yes.
The last one, I believe, we talked about COVID, so we kind of ended off on a sour note, so to speak. We got through it. I think we're stronger as a result.
Yeah.
But this podcast, this particular one, is pretty much an overview of the last 12 months for us. We don't really want to say 2020.
Yes.
Like, just because it just has a negative connotation, we just kind of want to erase that from the history books. But we do want to kind of review just different things, because this is a relationship podcast. We do want to make sure that we went over everything that we learned, because this was a very significant year for us as far as our personal growth, as far as our growth as being a married couple.
And as individuals.
Yes, as individuals as well. So we want to just make sure that we go over these things, and then we want to get some feedback.
Double fisting over
Yeah,
here.
with double fist. I shouldn't have. I made the drinks. I don't think I ever made a drink too strong for myself. But I'm like, I was like, I can't even hear separate noises without being unfocused. I don't know what I did, but bear with me.
Back to it. We are doing our year-end review. What we learned. You can't move forward unless you keep what you learned in the past and you maintain that. So that's kind of what our focus is going to be on this episode. So we are going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff that we learned. So we're going to start with tolerance and patience is kind of like the theme of this one. So you can go first because you learned a lot more about patience than I did.
Probably with everything that's going on with the pandemic and people being at home for pretty much every aspect of their life, you have to learn a level of patience if you live with other people. You share we have 2 bathrooms, right? So when we don't have to share that space the way some people do, but scheduling and different stuff, like we're all here, so we're on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn how to you have to give a little bit to get a little bit, and then just kind of work around each other. Where normally, I might wake up at 7, she wakes up at 8. We kind of stay out of each other's way. She comes in later in the evening. I'm in early in the afternoon. We kind of stay out of each other's way. Mm-hmm. What we had to learn was how to navigate a life where we were around each other almost 24/7 for pretty much the whole year, which was very new. And one of the things before this year, and I think you said you're going to hit on it when it comes to a certain aspect, was the fact that we've always gotten along, we've always liked each other, but us spending a lot of time together could be very dangerous. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually shocked that we grew closer. The patience, the understanding, there was so much great stuff that actually happened, as opposed to if you asked me, if this happened, how do you think? I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a train wreck. We're probably going to be divorced and be working on the 3rd marriage or something like that. But that's not what happened at all. And for me, once I understood exactly what was going on in the world, and I understood that everybody was dealing with essentially the same things, it made me kind of sit back and be able to deal with everything. I'm not a homebody. I like being out. Mm-hmm. I like being involved in stuff. I like being social. So typically this kind of stuff would have killed me. But fortunately, we were able to work through it and do it together. And we didn't piss each other off as much as we could. Mm-hmm. I think we pissed each other off at the same level, irritate each other at the same level as we would, even if we were able to kind of live our lives regularly. But in that sense, we really learned how to be a married couple. In my mind, we really learned how to be a married couple this year because we were forced to. We were it's kind of like when you put people in a room and they don't like each other, and it's how long is it going to be before they, end up talking to each other, or they rip each other's head, or one or the other is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening for us is, we chose the former, and we talked more, and we started the podcast, and we did all types of different things to allow us to kind of grow and cultivate our relationship, despite everything around us potentially, falling apart and making things really bad for us.
Yeah, we definitely got to know each other's little intricacies, I would say, stuff that you don't get to know unless you're with each other for a long time, for a consistent long time. So it's okay, I know this bothers him, or I know whatever sets him off, or like there's little things that I do that I know annoy him, but it's like
Don't stop you from doing them.
I know, like
You just
some
know.
of them,
You just know
some of
you
them
do it.
are like just habits, and I don't even realize I'm doing them until he snaps. But, but yeah, I really just think that overall, we learned how to live with each other, like more than we already were. Like,
Yeah, and I when it comes to living with each other, like she said, it's the time that's put in. So when we were married the first time, I can't even recall us spending the night with each other. I really don't. Before we were married,
no.
So when we got married, everything kind of happened like a whirlwind. It happened very fast. And the second time, it was better. It was different, but even still. So what ended up happening is we learned to really live with each other this past year because we got to see what our like. There are certain things like she's not a nag or a person that's like you're doing this wrong or anything like that. I kind of wish she was more that way. But there's little things within the house that I learned that she likes or she does a certain way or she has a process to do it. And I had to learn to just kind of be like, hey, I'm thankful she's doing it and not say too much about it and just really just appreciate the effort that she put in. I also learned how to not be so, I don't want to, like, what is it called? Like, so obsessive about how certain things look. Like laundry or different things like that. Like, it's not hurting anybody if it's sitting there. So it's just little things I learned to be better with where before it might have kind of like really got to me. I learned to not be so obsessive about things. I learned to give her a fair amount of space when it came to kind of just doing what she wanted to do instead of me trying to take the reins and kind of direct her to where to go and trusting more that she's going to understand where to go to. So a lot of patience and tolerance in regard to our whole process for last year.
And then the next little thing we're going to talk about is all the stuff we learned about sex.
I didn't learn anything about sex.
With each other.
Oh, okay. That's different.
All the stuff we learned about our sex life, I should say. So in the beginning of the pandemic, just, I guess, out of default, we started having sex a lot more because we were home a lot more. And when we weren't annoying each other. And like when we had a moment,
I was less annoyed because I was having more sex.
when we had a moment without the munchkin or something, like we would, okay, you want to do this, like, and it was like he said, very,
nope, you're wrong.
Much more natural.
Nope, you remember this differently than me, because I those two big closets that we have, I remember very specifically. I'm not going to get too. Nope, she's been here this whole time.
No, I said like without her bothering us is kind of what I meant. Like if she was busy doing something, like I didn't say sleep, but like if she was
I thought you meant like if she was out the house.
No. She could be here, but she was busy doing something else.
Right. Okay.
So then we kind of could get some.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
So yeah, I think it was just out of default because we were home all the time.
I don't necessarily know if it was by default. I think that we had started on getting better in some areas of our life, and so me by default, when I'm less stressed out, and people around me are kind of listening to what I'm telling them, or they're doing the things that they need to do, at least from my perspective. However you want to look at it, I want to have more sex, but I think you were more proactive about it. That's something else I learned. I learned how to be more accepting of it. I want what I want when I want it. Like a lot of people.
How he wants it.
How I want it, when I want it, and all that kind of good stuff. I think that around this time was when I learned to kind of take it when she walked in the door and she's like, come on. Instead of me going, come on, like I'm washing dishes. Or I'm like what man has ever said, I'm washing dishes. I'm like, we can't. Like, but no, that's me. I'm baking, you know. But I learned the moment she comes in and she gives me a look or I see something or whatever, it immediately just going to get just going to handle the business, because the more I learned that if I'm saying no and I keep pushing her away and whatever, she's not going to keep coming back. People don't do that. Mm-hmm. So it's just it's a mental thing that I had to understand. It's like the more you say no or wait, if she's hot and ready to go right now, like, you know, you pop something in the microwave and it's bubbling when it comes out and stuff like that. You don't necessarily want it at that moment because it's too hot. But how many of us have been really hungry and we burnt our mouth trying to eat something too fast? No pun intended. But we tried. But what her I had to learn. I was like, you know what? Let me take this opportunity now because it's not going to take me long to get into it. It's just I had to go. This thing that I'm doing right now can wait. My wife is requesting my services, so to speak. So I just need to make sure I go and I do that, and then I can come back to whatever it is typically. And I had to learn it. I had to learn to be able to step away from what I'm doing, and I'm very momentum based, so it still can be very difficult for me. But then she also had to learn. There's times where she probably shouldn't. She had to learn timing. She's not a very good timing person. Mm-hmm. Like she has horrible to like after I eat a big piece of fried chicken or something like that because how she digests and whatever, and she's like, okay. Let's go, like, and I'm like, oh my goodness, let me just sit here and digest my food. Once again, what man is saying that? I'm like, I don't want to feel like a fat cow, you know, what I'm doing. I don't want to feel stuff moving around. Like, it's just how I
am. But then, like, after, like, the beginning, when we were, like, it just kind of happened more. It did fall off a little bit, but it's still, I believe, like, we have more sex than we used to. And it seems to be more like consistent and
I also became more vocal.
Like it's awkward.
I became more vocal too. Like because before it was just I wasn't passive aggressive, but I didn't really say what I wanted. I just kind of had this expectation, and that was I learned that too. It was very unfair. I had expectation of her without the background that I had, and I had to learn like it's not fair to have an expectation for even though it's your wife that she's going to do all these things the way that you want them to, how you want them to. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to cultivate that kind of relationship where you're like, hey, so I had to become more vocal about what I wanted when I wanted and kind of say, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And I had to learn to kind of push my pride and ego aside because I didn't always get what I wanted when I wanted. I didn't always get things as fast as I wanted or the time, or sometimes I never thought I would hear I have a headache. I never thought I would hear.
I always say it before you even bring anything else up.
Nope, that's not true. I've said like, yeah, you're like, oh, my head hurt. It's only happened like twice.
I was gonna say because typically if I have a headache, I make sure to let you know like right away before anything, just so that you
like so it's not like
because it's
hey,
usually I don't really get headaches that often. So when I do, they're just like really annoying.
Okay, here you go justifying again. Like I said, it happened like 2 times that way. But what I'm saying is, it's one of those pride and ego things, and one of those things that I had to learn. To not take it personally or to not go, you're not giving me or providing me something because you don't feel well. I have to be like, you know what, she doesn't feel well. Let it go. Same as if you're tired and you're working, you work long hours. I'm like, I don't wait till you walk in and have an expectation that we're going to have sex or we're going to do anything because you might just want to relax and chill. And that's something I had to learn to understand too. Mm-hmm. But I think I was already kind of decent at that because I'm just like, you had a long day. Like you just want to relax. Like, and I understand that, and I think that was a very critical piece for me to understand. And I think she might appreciate that, like, okay, like he's not bothering me. But then she also has become more vocal about things too. So we, of all the things that we communicate about, we had one issue with communicating about sex this year, and it was before a podcast actually. But typically when we communicate about sex, it's usually the most positive conversations that we have because it's something that we can actually change. Like we can do something about it. A lot of stuff we can't do anything about it that day or that moment, or maybe there's something internally that we're not quite understanding where we need to go with it. So sex is one of those things where it's just like before before we got COVID and before things started shutting down, we were doing 30 days or 31 days of sex. We only got through how many days?
7.
Maybe 7 days or something like that. But the whole idea behind it was to, in my mind, the more we have sex, the more we want it, the more we appreciate it. Some people feel like if you have it less, you appreciate it more. To me, I'm like, it gets it's better. Like the more we have it, it's better. It's kind of on our mind. But I also understand, like after a couple of days, she's like, hey, like, and I get it. Like I understand that it's like, lady parts are different. You guys need a little bit of break. Sometimes men, we need a little bit of break too. But it's a respect thing. So it's really cool to be able to go, I know you need a little break now, and kind of even know like, okay, we've been going at it a couple days and we've been going at it more intense this day versus this day. maybe we need to slow down or do some other things, and then figure out other things to do. And it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more carefree than it was. Like she said, we become more comfortable with each other, and then hopefully it only gets better from there.
And that kind of segues right into the next one: communication and flexibility. So we talked about a little bit of that.
Communication, but the flexibility part, like, so as far as like when I say flexibility, it's like scheduling. But like,
yeah, because our schedules were all over the place, and it wreaks havoc with a person like me, because I love schedules and I love knowing what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. And like, when the pandemic started, the salon closed, everything that I was doing basically closed except for my one part-time job, and it's very much all over the place. That job is a take this shift this day, this shift this day. Like it's like a morning shift, an evening shift, an afternoon shift, like all over the place, and you don't really know what you're going to do from one week to the next. So that was awful for me, because I don't like that at all. But then as far as like, I was able to do it. So that was a success for me, because it's not something that I'm typically good at. But other than that, like Arabella's schedule was a little weird. Yours was a little.
And the house, the one, it for what, flexibility and scheduling part was worse for me, because I had to have Arabella.
Oh yeah,
from pillar to post. Like I've had to have Arabella and take her to the office with me, figure stuff out. Even now, like dance, like I take her to dance before, like that was Faith's thing, and I didn't. When's the recital? Do I have to pay for something? Like that's it. Faith took care of pretty much everything. Yeah. So I'm like, I didn't really pay attention unless there was something that was needed, where it typically wasn't. Faith took care of it. Faith's schedule changed, and it's like, now you have to take care of it, and it's like, oh my goodness. So and then I started going to the gym, and there's other things I have to do. So trying to navigate around all that kind of stuff, it's a lot more difficult for me, because I have to try to figure out how to do it, and then I work another job. So it's like I have to try to figure out how to do this, sleep, go to the gym, all these different things. So as much as Faith likes schedules, it's so weird for me to say I like structure, but I do need a little bit more structure than I've had. And it was kind of like, hopefully in the next week or so, you'll be able to kind of get back to helping a little bit more. But it just was a situation where it's like Faith couldn't really, it's not much she could really do to help. And I have a little bit more flexibility in my life where I can do different things. So the responsibilities were different. But when Faith can, being home, she just started doing more stuff in the house, and taking that kind of stuff. And that was one of the things we had talked about. And it's like, if you take more stuff off of my plate, then how I react and respond to you in regard to other things and stuff, it's going to be better. And I think our relationship actually has kind of gotten better, because she consistently does certain things in the house now, where before it was kind of like as needed. But like every day, like there's things that she kind of works on and she does. And before it was a thing where I'm always thinking about it, I'm always looking at it. And now it's kind of like, if she doesn't do it, then I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it. But even still, I trust her to now, like dishes are in the sink. Like I can walk away and go to the bathroom and then come back, and all of a sudden the dishes are done. I'm just like, oh, I was going to do them. She's like, they're sitting in the sink. They needed to be done. She was not like that the year before. It wasn't like that. So that's a cool thing to be able to be like, wow, like I don't have to worry about those dishes. It sounds like very small, but I'm pretty sure people can attest to that. Like I don't have to worry about laundry. I don't have to worry about that to some degree. Like we both share the responsibilities more within the home, where before it wasn't quite like that. Like I think she cares more about those types of things. So just being flexible has definitely helped and increased over the past year.
Next one, what is that? Parenting.
Yeah.
So as far as parenting goes, knowing when to have structure and when to be lenient has been interesting, because with her being virtual and stuff being closed, like
Arabella, her being Arabella.
Yes, Arabella, with her school being virtual, and sometimes like she'd be in school and then she'd have things like dance, and she'd have things like the
no, she wasn't in school. She hasn't been in school since March.
But then like the past 3 weeks and like other things, like things would be closed, so she wouldn't have things. So it's like, okay, well, does she really need to go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock, because she doesn't have to wake up for anything tomorrow because everything's closed and canceled, and like.
And I think the structure was more throughout the year. I think we're a kind of recency thing where we're kind of looking at the last month or the last 3 weeks because I'm thinking particularly about the fact this kid was sleeping till 11
Well,
o'clock.
the first time everything closed,
She wasn't sleeping too crazy.
She still had school, I believe. During the shutdown, the first time, school was still happening.
Yeah.
So she did still have to wake up for school.
And then the summer, there was nothing, but she didn't sleep like she did like in December.
Right.
Like I don't know what was going on, but or maybe it was just our structure, and I know you even when things are going on, she's like, would you do this? If like she's more of a stickler for structure in some respects, I'm more stickler for structure in other respects. And a lot of that has to do with the fact I'm around Arabella all day.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm more lenient, and I don't want to have because I see how she processes throughout the day. So I'm just like, this kid has had a hard go of the day or whatever case may be, and she might come in and say, this is what we're doing. I'm just like, no. Or she's like, why is she up right now? And I'm like, well, she's up because we're watching the movie because I didn't get to spend any actual time with her. She's been with me all day, and she's spoken to me more than I've spoken to her because I'm trying to do all these other things. So she's like, Daddy, look at this, and Daddy, I'm working on this, and I'm like, and then she comes in and she's like, what are you doing? I'm just like, well, I kind of want to spend some actual time with her.
Yeah.
And she might not understand, like, you've been with her all day, but it's like, I can spend time with Faith and not feel like we connected or anything like that. Like we can sit with each other. There's times where it does happen, and I'm just like, well, like we're not connecting, like nothing's really building. So parenting is one of those things but I think we did a pretty good job. Like she's still pretty good. Like she transitioned right back in. She's been waking up and doing things. She's like school starts for her tomorrow. I told her to start setting her alarm and stuff. She's been doing it. So that we've done pretty good there.
And then just one of the last things that we want to talk about is just what we learned about each other over the year. And I learned not to be so tense around him. And that sounds funny because I married him. Why am I tense around him? But
everyone's tense around me.
Certain things, like I would just feel like
I'm intimidating.
Like I would be stepping on like eggshells. Like I'd be like, one wrong move and I'll set him off. And like that sounds bad. It's like not as bad as it sounds. But
if it wasn't me, I'd probably be upset. But I actually get it. And you're my wife, but you're not the only one who's ever felt like that. And it's weird because you have to get to know me to understand my processes. Yeah. But if you're a person if I'm going to be really candid, if you're on some BS, or if I see that you're not doing the best that you can when you can, I'm not the kind of person you want to piss off or screw around with, at least of all my wife.
Yeah, so this is definitely, I feel much more at ease around him now. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to set him off at any given moment. Like, I feel like we're much more
I just think you don't care as much.
I think we're much more relaxed around each other. We have more fun. Like, we just, I don't know. I feel like we're more friends than we used to be.
That is actually an important piece to bring up. We became more friends than we were before because we didn't really have, I don't want to say we didn't have much of an option because of distance between other people, and then also this time kind of really helped us understand like our relationship and the strength of our relationship is the most important relationship. So even outside friends and stuff like that, we have expectations and we reach out to them, other family and stuff like that, and just call a spade. Like there were people who flaked, there were people who weren't responsive, there were people who, schedule wise things didn't work out. There were all kinds of different things. Yeah. We have no ill will towards anybody, but what we started to do was kind of look at each other and go, screw it. Like, it's us. Like, this podcast was not supposed to happen with her. It was supposed to happen a different kind of way. But one day I was just like, would you do it? And the rest was history. Yep. There's times where, I'm like, hey, I'm going to reach out to other people, and I do it, and I don't hear back from her. I look at her, I'm like, hey, you want to do something? Of course. So it's just really making sure that we keep building and cultivating that friendship. Yeah. But I want to get into the thing that I learned about her. Like, I learned to trust her more. 13 months ago, even. Heck, matter of fact, maybe in January last year, did not trust her. And when I say I didn't trust her, it's not
I was
about
gonna
like,
say you better clarify.
yeah, no. Like I don't have any kind of issues with like men, and I don't worry about. I don't know. Look at me. I ain't worried about all that kind of stuff or whatever. For as many eggshells as you walk on, I know my worth. But the trust came with the fact that Faith has always navigated life a certain way, and I've had to scratch and claw and fight. So when I'm just like, we got to do it this way, or we're doing like we have to keep doing it, she's just kind of like, we're okay, we're fine, we're okay. And I'm like, okay and fine is not good enough because look at the pandemic. If something like the pandemic happens and you're not a couple steps ahead, you're screwed. If you didn't have Beata,
yeah,
we would have been in a worse situation. If I didn't work in the field that I worked in and had the ability to make the additional income, we'd have been in a worse situation. And then still in that amount of time, which is kind of funny now I'm thinking about it because this happened during the pandemic, you know, your new job and everything like that. So the way that I am actually has been very beneficial for us. It just doesn't look like that up front because it seems like it's additional work. It seems like, oh my goodness, like I don't want to wake up early and do nothing. I don't want to come home and do anything other than chill. Like, and I'm just like, you know, we want to get further in life. We want to do something so we can chill more. The more that we accomplish and we get done, the more we can chill. So, you know, just being able to trust her to be able to take care of things in the house, being able to trust her to be like, hey, I want this. I have specific needs and I want certain things because it makes it easier for me because it kind of always seems like I want something. I want this. This is justice's way. And I'm like, I don't want it to be like that. It's just I'm more vocal about it. I'm like, when I want something, I want it. Like I'm not pitter-pattering around. I'm not going, I don't deserve it or what. No, I want it. I'm going to get it one way or another. Yeah. So it's just, she has become more of a, like, I want stuff now. Like, I want this. I want to be better. I want to be more, I want to be a boss. I want to be all this type of stuff. Things that, you know, wasn't necessarily part of her personality before, but I think she's seeing internal growth in herself and just kind of is like, I like what I'm saying from a mental and a physical or professional standpoint and just wants to keep growing. So it allowed me to go, I trust you because now I'm actually seeing it get cultivated without me having to speak as much and tell her like, you should do. She's doing it on her own where I can just kind of sit back and, you know, I come in where I need to, but I try to back off and she'll tell me to back off sometimes. And I will back off because I trust that if she really wants it, she's going to go for it. She's going to get what she needs.
So just to wrap up, we're going to talk about our outlook for 2021. What things we want to keep doing, what things we want to do better, any goals we have, that kind of thing. So I'll start. I want for 2021 to cultivate my new job as an educator at the T Spa in Collegeville. I want to work on my advanced education. I want to just work on being the best I can be to move forward in that career. And then also personally, I want to continue with my my health stuff that I've been working on over the past year. I want to work on continuing to eat good, to go to the gym, continuing to like just maybe do a little bit more research into things because I don't necessarily feel like I need to lose a lot more weight. It's at this point, it's more of sculpting different things in my body the way that I want it to be. So, and just taking better care of myself in general.
Yeah, and for me, I'm trying to get to the bag. I'm trying to get to the money. I mean, like, no, but honestly, this year for me is very big on achieving goal. Like, I spent my whole life chasing her, essentially. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a daughter. Have that stuff. I didn't spend a lot of time cultivating other areas of my life. So this year, as last year was actually supposed to be, but I've actually had some opportunities, some blessings, some things through the podcast, some things through actually finally getting on Instagram and whatever the case may be. I'm gaining more traction in certain areas. I'm able to do more than I was able to do years previously. My mindset is different. My goals for myself, for her, for our whole family is different. Hopefully, prayerfully this year, we're able to purchase a house or at least move to a different area where we have more space and more opportunity to do some things. And, you know, we'll get to that house or whatever, you know, in God's time. But we have a lot of big things that are happening, that are going on. So just moving forward and just making everything bigger and better than it was, and just making sure that we do that together, that we're exemplary in doing it, make sure we reach more people and help more people this year. I think that last year we started on that truck, but I think this year we can really take that to the next level because I think more people are more receptive to that help. So our goals are to be the best versions of ourselves and essentially extend that out, help other people be the best versions of themselves in any area that we can.
Yes. So that's our recap of 2020 and our outlook.
You did it. You just couldn't not say recap of 2020.
We said that in the beginning of the podcast.
No, that's not what we said. We said review of the year.
Anyway, so until next time.
I'm sorry, y'all.
We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Until next time, maintain your justice.
And keep your faith strong.
Bye.
Bye.